Hi there. Thanks for joining me on Rethink Real Estate for Good. I'm Eve Picker, and I'm on a mission to make real estate work for everyone. I love real estate. Real estate makes places good or bad, rich or poor, beautiful or not. In this show, I'm interviewing the disruptors, those creative thinkers and doers that are shrugging off the status quo in order to build better for everyone. From Wall Street to mortgage banking to real estate developer, Joel Miller has focused his career with clarity and purpose. And now he's taking it one step further by raising money for his next real estate project through crowdfunding. Joel wants to bring others up behind him. He wants to give others the opportunities he's been given. And one small way to do that is to provide an opportunity for everyone to invest in his latest project. Early on in his career, Joel realized that his goal to lead an organization might not happen if he waited for an opportunity, so he made his own. He started his own company, Wall Street Capital Partners, specializing in sourcing and arranging debt and equity for acquisitions and development of real estate. And of course, over time, he started to build his own real estate portfolio. I enjoyed every moment of this conversation, and so will you. Please listen in to hear more. Hi, Joel. I'm really delighted to have you join me today.
Hey, how are you, Eve? Good to be here. I'm happy to be here.
I'm very good. So I wanted to ask you about your journey from Wall Street to Wall Street Capital Partners. What led you to launch your own company?
Well, it's very funny that you would ask that question because that was the thing that was running around in my mind when I was a young guy back on Wall Street. And I had this really ambitious dream of how I was going to be this top executive and do this and do that. And one thing I realized once I got to Wall Street was that there were other guys that were already ahead of me that were 20, 30 years older than me, and they were still trying to climb that ladder to get to where I wanted to be. And I didn't want to wait 20 to 30 to 40 years to get there. And these guys were basically willing to kick me down the ladder to make sure I don't pass them on the way up. So I just simply had to decide, was I going to continue to play the Wall Street game, or would I look for other opportunities where I might be able to shortcut that if I had the willingness to work very hard and the due diligence and the determination in order to make it happen. So that's the short version for you older folks out there, to read a digest version of how this all came about.
And when did you launch your company? And
well, we actually started, believe it or not, in the early 90s. So this was some time ago, and we've had reiterations of the firm as we've grown as a company, adapted our focus over time, and but that's really when we got started back in those days.
And I know you're in Atlanta, so you went from New York City to Atlanta. Why that move?
Well, it's very interesting you mentioned that. At the time, I viewed Atlanta as New York 70 years ago. And what I mean by that is, if you look at New York City and you roll the carpet back 70 years, it was a new city, not necessarily new, but there was a lot of people coming into the city and creating what it is today. A lot of immigration, a lot of people coming in from the outside, and it opened up the opportunity for a lot of people that may not have been major players years ago to now be major players in the marketplace, because there were no major players. Everybody was kind of trying to get their footing. And so Atlanta back at that time was kind of the same type of place. This was before the Olympics. There were a lot of people migrating down there. It was wide open. And there was a lot of opportunity to really make your impression on the city without trying to, knock off a lot of the older established players that were there, like you saw in New York back at that time. So it was an opportunity. It's almost like, why did people decide to go west many years ago?
That's what I was thinking. Like the
Yeah,
gold rush,
so the
right?
same type of thing, yeah.
How's that played out in Atlanta, do you think?
Well, I always ask that question, where would I be today if I was still up in New York? So I don't know. But I think it's worked out well. One thing that's good about Atlanta is you don't have a lot of just the stresses of living. New York is a very intense, compact city with people all over you. Everywhere you go, you walk right out your building, there's people all over the street. And, to be in a more relaxed environment gives you more time, I think, to mentally kind of focus on what you're trying to achieve. So it's worked out well for me. I exchanged the backyard of buildings and concrete to one of deer and trees. So
Oh,
it's all
nice. That's nice.
good.
So tell me what services like Wall Street Capital Partner provides.
Yeah, so our core business over the years has been financing real estate. So we're the firm that many individuals come to in order to acquire real estate, refinance real estate, develop real estate, rehab real estate. We're involved in that space. And as you could imagine, over time of making, quite a few of our clients very wealthy, we turned around and we said, it's time for us to step over to the other side of the table. So years ago, we started investing in our own deals. And also we decided to bring capital and resources to developers that maybe had deficiencies in their capital stack. Maybe they didn't have experience. Maybe they didn't have all the capital. Maybe they didn't have the know-how. Maybe they didn't understand the numbers. So we brought all that skill set to the table. And as a result of doing that, we became equity players in other people's deals and then started working on our own projects as well.
So how big is your own portfolio now?
Well, our portfolio, I don't really want to quote numbers here online, but we've got quite a few projects that we're more than happy to share with any investors that might be interested in investing in our projects.
Okay, fair enough. And are your projects primarily residential or commercial, for sale or for rent? What do you focus on?
Yeah, so our primary investments are they might be for rent properties, but we're developing them for sale. Now some of our acquisitions, like in Atlanta, for an example, we're looking at keeping those properties in the portfolio. Our development projects in the DC market, we're looking to sell. So it really just depends on the market strategy, depending on where the property sits, as to what we plan to do with it. So it's
Well,
kind
well,
of
that leads me to ask, where are your buildings located? Where are these investments? Not just Atlanta, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, not just Atlanta. Right now, we're focused on acquisitions in Atlanta. We have other assets in New Orleans right now, and we have development projects that we're working on up in the DC metro area.
Okay. So, um, you're in Atlanta. What's the biggest need in real estate in Atlanta right now? What's the biggest challenge?
That's a multifaceted question. It's amazing because when I first got down here, it was rare to find a property that cost $1 million to buy. Now it's very common to find $1 million homes. And yes, this is many years later, but just like many other markets, the cost of housing is an issue, especially in the urban core. The periphery of the city has got expensive as well. So the demand for quality housing, even in those areas, is a need. We have a issue with office space where there's a lot of it available right now, and what is that going to become? So that's a need that has to be addressed. And traffic's a big thing down here in Atlanta. Most people aren't aware of that, but it is. And as a result, many people want to live in the urban core so that they don't have to commute from outside the city. So affordable housing is something that's needed as well. So I would say all of the issues associated with a major city is an issue here. One deficiency that Atlanta does have, though, is the mass transit is not as extensive as a New York or Washington, D.C. It's more like a Los Angeles or Dallas or, a city like that. And as a result, that presents its own challenges.
So commute times can be long if you can't live close in.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your favorite success story? What's a favorite project and why?
Well, I think one of the favorite projects is one that we did in unison with a client of ours. they've kind of been the person. I don't want to tell you how they get their real estate deals because that's kind of their secret
It's like
sauce.
their secret sauce.
Yeah, so I don't want to disclose
I
that,
know
but
so many people who say that. I have to tell
yeah,
you.
I know a lot of secret sauce out there, right?
Yeah.
Um, but this was a situation where the property was it was office. It was roughly about 30% occupied. It was in an area where the area wasn't bad, but the property could have been doing a lot better. And everyone just kind of turned their nose up to it. It had an absentee owner from California, but it was down here in Atlanta in a very good market. And, we got together and put together a strategy in unison with one of our clients to take over this property. It was about 400,000 square feet.
Oh, that's
And
big.
and convert it to a very, very profitable office environment right now, even with offices beat up as it is and that sector being decimated as it is. This property is running north of 90% occupancy. Actually, last I checked, it was 100% occupancy
Wow.
and is doing quite well. So that's a huge success story, and we would love to do that for more clients, especially minorities that are looking to get into commercial real estate. We started off with this particular client when they were buying. I think the first deal we did for them was it was like a little dinky office building for like $147,000. And now their portfolio is, I mean, eight figures. High eight figures.
Wow.
So it's something that can be done. In a short period of time. This
Wow.
particular client actually used to be a substitute school teacher of all
Wow.
things.
Wow.
So it can be done. It can be done if you get the right team with you to work with you. And then hopefully, we view ourselves as that right team to help you get to the next level.
So let's talk about the King Henry. It's a name I love, and that's one of your current projects.
Yeah.
And full disclosure, you are listing this as an offering to raise funds on Small Change, my real estate crowdfunding platform. But it's a really fascinating project. So where is it located, and what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So this particular project is in Alexandria, Virginia. It is at the intersection of, well, it's off the King Henry corridor. I'll just mention that if you know where that is. That's the main artery that runs through Alexandria. It runs from the metro station at the Alexandria stop all the way to the waterfront, where you could actually catch the water taxi to Washington, D.C., right to downtown. And it's a tremendous location that I got excited about just simply because of all of the traffic and the vibrance of the city. One thing that's very unique about Alexandria, and I know you have some other questions for me on it, but one thing that I really like about it is it's one of those few areas in the country where you have a lot of mom and pop shops. You're not going to walk down the street and there's a Walmart on every corner and a Target and a this and a that. Nothing wrong with those guys. So let me,
No.
they might want to sponsor us one day. So let me not throw them under the bus. But the idea of being able to support local businesses, the local coffee shop, the local bakery, the local, jazz club, all these things is available in Alexandria, Virginia, where you can really feel a part of the community. And with the cobblestone streets and everything, it's just a wonderful area. Specifically, what we're doing there, we're replacing surface parking that is there currently with structured parking. We're using an automated mechanical parking system, which will take roughly 40 spots and turn it into 147
Isn't that insane?
spots. I
I
know
love that. I
it's
love that.
impossible. Yeah, it looks impossible, but we've got it all structured and built out in the architectural drawings. And we're also putting up 50 units of multifamily housing with retail on the ground floor. So
That all of that replaces how many surface parking spaces right now?
Yeah, roughly about 40 spots.
Total
Yeah,
on all the that's crazy.
yeah, it is crazy.
Not the highest and best use, right?
Yeah, well, that's the point. The city realized that this wasn't the highest and best use for that space, and that you certainly can increase the tax base by doing what we proposed. And they've signed off on it, and it's a permit-ready site. So we look forward to doing it.
So how does this compare to your other past projects? Is this unusual or standard?
No, well, it's unusual from the standpoint that generally you have you know, 150, 200, 300, 400 projects. The one that we're working on in a city very close to that is actually 600 units. And that's a skyscraper. So, generally we do get involved in much larger projects. This one I really like because of the barriers to entry. You're not going to have everybody building a similar product right next to you
No, it's
because there's
very
just no land.
unique.
Yeah, it's very unique. It's a
Yeah.
historic city. And you can't just go in there and tear stuff down, which is why we're having to do it where service parking is, right? Where something was already
Interesting.
torn down.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so, what's the total development cost for that project, approximately?
Total development cost is roughly $42 million.
And what does the financing look like for a project like that, roughly?
Yeah, roughly we'll do 60% of that debt. We will raise the rest in equity, which will be roughly about $16 million. And then we're cutting off a slice of that for participation by some smaller investors that may want to get involved. Usually projects like this, it's all people with deep pockets that get involved and they make all the returns and all the money. And the average working class person is generally relegated to getting in real estate by means of doing fix and flips, and trying their hand at that. And you're never going to get to where you want to be just doing little small fix and flips. You can do okay, but you're not going to get to that multi-million dollar threshold. But participating in much bigger deals, you can eventually get there. So, we think this is a great opportunity.
So that opportunity is listed on our platform, smallchange.co, if anyone is interested. But I'm just wondering why. I mean, this is probably a little bit more work for you than just going out and raising the money from one institutional investor, right? So why?
Yeah, well, you asked the reason why, and just to give you a little background, I have teenage boys, and obviously I want them to come up and hopefully be in the industry and learn the commercial side of it from day one and grow and become major players in the space, as opposed to just becoming maybe just a realtor with a real estate license selling single family homes, or doing fix and flips their whole life. So in addition to that, I also teach the capital markets class for some institutions. One is called REAP, the Project REAP program, where individuals that are looking to get into commercial real estate can actually participate and learn the business from people that are already in the business and learn how they can participate in deals. So long story short, Eve, I have a passion about helping those that are behind me, because there's people in front of me that have helped me get to where I am today. I have mentors, right? So why wouldn't I pay that forward and help the next generation of folks coming along to be able to get in deals?
Right.
Also, growing up in New York City, I've seen how people seem to never get out the rut. When I was a kid, I thought the only way I could get to the next level was everybody in the neighborhood, it was either drugs or sports. That was the only way you were going to get out of the, and get to that next level. And so the idea of being able to get other people into these deals at this level where they can say, yes, I was an investor in a $42 million deal, opens the door for them to do much bigger deals and become part of the investor pool in much bigger things and much bigger opportunities. And it even exposes them if they want to do some bigger stuff on their own down the road. So I think it's great just to open up the door and at least let a slice of that $16 million go to some smaller investors so that they can participate and be part of the action. And it's a passion that I have. I've been doing it for free, even on my podcast and doing these shows and everything else. It's just a passion that I have to give back. And I think this is another way I can do it.
So just dialing back a little bit, what are some of the challenges you've been confronted with personally as a black man in real estate, which we know is really a white man's industry still, very much so?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I can't give you hard facts, but I do know that blacks represent about 3% of the commercial real estate space across the board, 3%, but they make up 16% of the population. So you kind of wonder, why is that dichotomy there where you have so little that are in these type of deals? And it's mainly a white male dominated business, as you know. So one of the challenges has always been access to capital for minorities. It's a really, really big thing. My business partner on this deal has developed over 14,000 apartment units. So, his experience obviously goes a long way toward getting this thing done. But just being a minority in the space, people tend to gravitate toward folks that they have some type of camaraderie or some type of relationship to.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're never used to seeing a minority do deals like this, it's almost like, well, are they for real? Because I've never seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
And they really pull this off? Do they have the smarts? Remember, it wasn't too long ago where it was said that blacks weren't smart enough to be a professional football coach or be the quarterback of a professional football team. That was in my lifespan. So,
Right.
those are the challenges, and they're not written down anywhere. But, the fact that it's a 3% penetrated industry, kind of tells the tale of the tape. That doesn't mean that there's not a whole bunch of other people that would like to be players in commercial real estate. They just haven't had the chance. It's always boils down to access to capital 99% of the times because they don't have a daddy or somebody else that might be able to walk them into a bank or into an investment firm to get that capital.
So, what advice would you give to someone starting out a career in commercial real estate who's not a white man?
Yeah, well,
anyone who is from an underrepresented background, or
yeah,
even a female, because I think the numbers look about the same for
right.
women. It's pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to be clear also that I'm not beating up on white males, and I want to say that because if it wasn't for white men, the civil rights movement wouldn't have got as far as it did. You wouldn't even have HBCUs in black or southern parts of the country if it wasn't for white men that got behind trying to help these initiatives go forward. So, again, it's not a race of people. It's just the way the numbers shake out, right?
It's I suppose, who has control right now, and we have to figure out how to shift that a little bit, right? That's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and even as I mentioned, my partner on this deal is a white male. So, I'm certainly not beating up on white men, but I will say this: when you ask about how does that change, I would say one of the things is to get involved in a deal like this one. The reason why is because then you can put on your resume of deals that you've invested in. Hey, I was one of the investors in a $42 million deal. That goes on your resume and, participate at that level. Also, getting in with other individuals that have, been involved in commercial real estate and deals like that. And part of it is just getting out there and meeting key folks that are in the space. As I mentioned briefly, we have a podcast that doesn't compete with you, Eve, but it's more
I'm sure it does.
No, it doesn't, because we're not we're not doing anything there. But we are introducing folks to others that have been highly successful in commercial real estate, and they can learn from them as to what they did in order to be so successful in commercial real estate. So I would say exposure, and then there's trade organizations that are out there like, AREP and REAP and some of the others, where you can get involved and meet the people that are making inroads in commercial real estate. So those are the things I would say. But get in a deal. I mean, because once you're in the deal, then you can start reviewing the deal from the inside out and really learning this business.
Yeah. There's also lots of meetups and clubs now, more and more of them emerging, which I think are a great way to start learning, because it's a lot to learn. And also, actually, ULI, Urban Land Institute, can be a great source of information. So lots out there. But what are you proudest of?
What am I proudest of?
In your career, not just your boys, but
yeah, everybody says what they're proudest of is being a great dad, right? All that stuff aside, I mean, if you're acting professionally, Eve, it's hard for me to answer that because I'm always focused on the future. I'm not focused on the past. So while I'm happy about the things that I've accomplished and even being involved in the the deal sizes that we're talking about is, something that often just the 1% of the population in commercial real estate get to participate in. So I'm very happy and I'm proud about that, to even be having this conversation. So I think that would be the answer to your question. But for me, I still got a few things that I want to do before they write my obituary.
Well,
So,
what is that? What's your big, hairy, audacious goal?
I want to get these deals done, and we're looking to grow our portfolio. We're looking to have a balanced portfolio between acquisitions, where we're providing affordable housing and blended housing in a lot of different areas. And we also are looking to develop projects in other key markets around the country. So that's really our focus. And with your help, Eve, I think we'll get there.
That would be wonderful. Okay, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and everyone take a look at smallchange.co. It's an interesting project, and I just love the automated parking. By the way, where was that developed? Where's that company from that's providing the automated parking solution?
That's a good question. I don't know where they're headquartered, so I can't answer that. But if you go to Small Change Co., you will be able to get information on the project. You'll be able to watch a video that actually shows you exactly how it works, and it will give you the information on the company, so you could do your research on them there if you want to as well. And you'll also get a chance to see where these projects are already operating in other parts of the country.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Eve. I certainly appreciate being here, and happy to come back in any other time you want me.
I hope you enjoyed today's guest and our deep dive. You can find out more about this episode or others you might have missed on the show notes page at rethinkrealestateforgood.co. There's lots to listen to there. Please support this podcast and all of the great work my guests do by sharing it with others, posting about it on social media, or leaving a rating and a review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on LinkedIn. Even better, if you're ready to dabble in some impact investing, head on over to smallchange.co, where I spend most of my time. A special thanks to David Allardyce for his excellent editing of this podcast and original music. And a big thanks to you for spending your time with me today. We'll talk again soon, but for now, this is Eve Picker signing off to go make some change.